Raise your hand if you have missed a flight, booked a non-refundable hotel for the wrong days, forgotten to renew your passport and had to pay to expedite it because you needed it to leave the country, or forgotten important medication and had to call your doctor so that they could call a prescription into a pharmacy near you. Or maybe you've forgotten your wallet and you're on a road trip and you know you're gonna need to buy gas at some point. These are all travel oopsies that I have personally made, some within the last year. But despite all the hiccups, I love to travel. In fact, I often attribute my desire to become an entrepreneur to the fact that I wanted to be able to travel as easily and as often as I wanted. But even for a travel enthusiast like me, having ADHD can make the planning and packing process a bit stressful. It's kind of like an adventure before the adventure starts. So if you've ever packed 5 chargers but forgotten to pack underwear, something else I have totally done, stay tuned while we unpack some tips for ADHD moms to help with planning and packing for your summer travel without losing your mind. All of that on today's episode of the ADHD Mompreneur. But before we take off into this topic, I would like to take a minute to introduce myself in case you are new here. My name is Christy Lingo, and I am an executive function and accountability coach for ADHD mom business owners, and I have also traveled to 15 countries and 9 national parks. I am also diagnosed with ADHD and the parent of an ADHD child. I started working with ADHD populations in 2009 in my first business as a professional organizer, and it was the knowledge that I gained there that led me to my own diagnosis and my current ADHD coaching business. I wanted to create a program that specifically addressed the unique needs of a mom with ADHD or executive function challenges. I wanted to be able to help them stay on track, set clear goals, and finally follow through to see the success that they know deep down is possible. They just may have gotten a little distracted along the way. To learn more about my ADHD coaching programs and to pick up my free essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs, you can visit my website at theadhdmompreneur.com. Travel planning, as with any other type of planning, requires a lot of executive function. There are decisions to be made about where to go and when to go and what you'll do while you're there. You'll need to organize transportation or where you'll stay. You'll need to follow through on making plans and reservations or the payments that you have due. And when it comes to travel planning, us ADHDers often like to gravitate towards the fun and exciting parts of vacation, like what excursions are we going to take or what restaurants we're going to eat at, before we nail down the important things like when we're going, how we're going to get there, and where we're going to stay. And don't get me wrong, I have planned plenty of last-minute trips that have turned out to be great. But I've also had my fair share of disappointments when the Airbnb I had my heart set on is now booked because I waited too long to put my reservation in for the dates that I wanted. Or when plane flights sell out for the times that we needed. Or when I have to pay an expedited fee for my passport because I waited too long to renew it and I am leaving on a trip out of the country in less than a month. Like I did last summer. But when you take a little bit of time to break the planning process down into steps and then put those steps on a timeline to make sure that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, you will potentially have less stress going into your vacation and be able to enjoy your vacation more. To start, break the travel planning process down into smaller, more manageable tasks that may be easier for you to motivate yourself to do. If something on your to-do list like plan summer vacation feels too big and overwhelming, it can help to break the planning process down into smaller, more manageable tasks that make it easier for you to follow through. In general, you'll likely need travel planning categories like where are you going? When are you going? What will you need to bring, have, or buy, like passports or visas, equipment if you're doing specific activities, or extra medication if you're going to be gone for a long time. How do you plan to get to your destination? Where will you stay when you get there? What will you do while you're there? And what or how much should you pack based on how you'll be traveling, how much space you have, the weather in your destination, and so on. Once you know what steps it is that you need to do to plan your trip, you can start to create a timeline of what needs to be done when. For instance, you'll clearly want to pick out where you're going and when you're going as one of the first steps. Because while I love looking through Vrbo or Airbnb to see what kinds of cool places there are to stay, it's not a great use of my travel planning energy to find all of these places that may not be available when I am planning to be there. After you've chosen where and when, consider your next steps, the things that you need to take care of in order to avoid missing out. Things like, where will you stay or how will you get there? You should also figure out if there are any travel documents that you will need to have when you make this trip. Because now, even if you're traveling within the United States, there may be certain places that you cannot board a plane without an enhanced license or a passport. So be sure you're up to date on what travel documents you might need, because often these can take a little bit of time to get to you. The planning and the timeline needs for each family for each trip is going to be a little bit different, which is why I suggest starting with figuring out what it is you need to figure out. Then decide the best order to cross the tasks off of your to-do list based on due dates or immediate needs. And one last tip as you get to the most fun part of planning a trip, what you're going to do at your destination, be sure to plan for some downtime. When we're all excited about our trip and the adventures we're going to have and the memories we're going to make with our family, it can be hard to remember that ADHD brains actually thrive on regular structure and routine. And I know far too well that the ADHD travel way is to pack as much as you can into your schedule from sun up to sundown. Because when are you going to get the chance to bungee jump into a shark tank at the bottom of a waterfall ever again? But as much as our ADHD brains love new and novel and different and exciting, we can start to burn out and shut down if we're feeling a little overstimulated, even on vacation. Not to mention, traveling means that you're making more or different decisions that you're not normally making, or there are more frequent transitions which can tap out your executive function energy. Add to it an element of unknown, maybe a time change, and probably sleep and eating habit changes, which can all help to contribute to a full-blown executive function meltdown. So as you plan your daily activities, build in some buffer time to recharge for both you and your family. Maybe you do excursions in the morning and lounge by the pool in the afternoon. Maybe you ask each person to choose an activity for each day of the trip, and then the rest of the time that day is spent lounging and relaxing. Do whatever works best for your family. But I highly recommend finding a way to have some downtime each day so that everyone on your trip, neurodiverse or not, has a chance to rest and recharge. So once we've crossed off all the planning steps, it's time to pack or overpack, which is why I wanted to wrap up today's episode with a few travel packing tips for us ADHD moms. And it will probably come as no surprise to anyone who has been watching or following me for a while that my first suggestion for packing is to create a checklist. But lucky for you, I've actually done this for you. If you visit bit.ly/ADHD travel checklist, you can download my free customizable travel checklist to use when you're planning what you need to pack. I've based this checklist on the essentials that you and your family may need to pack for each trip, and you can totally just download it and print it whenever you are ready to pack. But I also know that everyone's travel packing needs might be a little different, which is why I am including a link to Canva so you can customize this checklist in any way that works for you. So be sure to stop by and pick up your free travel packing checklist at bit.ly/ADHD travel checklist. And if you would rather just make a list for yourself, here are some of the basic categories that I highly recommend. Clothing and shoes. This could include short sleeve shirts, long sleeve shirts, jackets and sweaters, underwear, bras, socks, and any activity or season-based items you may need like hats, gloves, swimsuits, hiking boots, etc. Documentation, things like passport or an enhanced license, a birth certificate, copies of any important documents you're bringing, and medication letters, which is a new thing that I learned about when we went to England, and my son and I both had to have letters from our doctors to bring our stimulant medication in. Next, speaking of medications, list out any toiletries or medications that you want to pack. You also want to be sure to list any electronics you're bringing, like tablets, laptops, Chromebooks, chargers, charging blocks, charging cords, video game systems, headphones, and converters if you are traveling to a country that has a different plug than your home country. You'll also want to bring along any stuff you need for work if you plan to work during your vacation, like papers, notebooks, planners, computers, etc. And I love to have a section for double check must-haves for my last action before I walk out the door. Things like double checking I have my wallet, my travel documents, my cell phones, my meds, etc. I keep a copy of my travel packing checklist on my computer, and I print it out for every trip I take, even if it's just 2 nights away at my parents' house, which is only 2 hours away. Because truth be told, it's those short trips where I think it's only a couple of days, I don't need to make a list, and then I forget my wallet and my medications. Another bonus of having a printable packing list is that you can fill it out and give it to your kids so they can start to learn to pack for themselves. Sure, I'll usually give their piles or suitcases a once-over to make sure that they didn't pack only black sweatpants for the entire trip. But for the most part, my 13 and 11-year-olds for years have been packing their own suitcases, which is one less activity for my already overworked ADHD mom brain. Once you have your basic travel packing list created, you can start to plan how much you will need for your specific trip. And rather than pulling everything out that you want to take first, I recommend choosing whatever bag or suitcase you're going to use first, especially if you're going to be working with limited trunk space or you're planning to do carry-on luggage. Trust me, it is much easier to choose fewer things than it is to try to edit once you have your heart set on bringing certain things. And if you're worried that you won't have enough room, here are a couple of my favorite tips to help keep from overpacking. Starting with, choose your shoes first. Shoes are arguably the bulkiest item that you are going to need to pack. So if you can limit the number of shoes that you are bringing, you can free up some space in your suitcase for other things. For instance, if you're going on a cruise and you don't necessarily have space for 5 pairs of heels in your small suitcase, maybe choose 2 pairs and then coordinate the dresses that you'll wear to dinner in the evenings with one of those 2 pairs of shoes. Also, if possible, wear your bulkiest pair on your travel days so they aren't just sitting in your suitcase taking up a ton of space where you could put something else. Next, pack outfits, not options. You may be able to streamline what you're bringing by thinking in terms of complete outfits as opposed to, I'll be gone for 7 days, so I'm going to need minimally 7 pairs of shorts and 7 shirts, but then I'm going to want some options. And what if it gets chilly and I need a jacket? Not only will this make getting dressed easier because you'll know that you have all the parts and pieces for the outfit that you're wearing that day, it also helps that you aren't dedicating space in your suitcase to a piece that may not coordinate with anything else that you've brought. Also, as you are putting your outfits together, think about what pieces or items you could rewear. For instance, bring a dark pair of jeans and a light pair of jeans, and then coordinate all of your tops to go with one pair or the other. Or make sure that each outfit that you bring goes with your favorite black cardigan sweater so that you don't have to bring additional bulky sweaters, coats, or jackets along if you happen to get chilly. Next up, do laundry if it's available. Take it from a recovering overpacker that the memories I made are just as wonderful when I wore the same outfits over and over again while backpacking through Europe for 2 months as they are when I brought an entire suitcase just for shoes to my sister's wedding. And how was it I was able to survive for 2 months on only the clothes in my backpack? Because I did laundry. It would be rare that you would travel to a place where you couldn't do a load of laundry where you're staying, there wasn't a laundromat in the town or city that you're staying at, or that your hotel or resort doesn't have the option to do laundry for you. And a bonus mom travel tip that I learned from an organizing client: do your laundry the night before you go home, whether it is at the house where you're staying or you have the hotel or resort clean it for you. This way, when you get home and unpack your suitcase, all you have to do is put the clothing away rather than have piles and piles of dirty laundry that has been mixing with the clean clothes in your suitcase for the entirety of the trip home. And finally, do a pre-pack purge. If you've chosen your shoes first and picked out the outfits that you're going to bring and decided which items you may need to wear more than once and launder during your trip, it is time to start filling up your suitcase. And as you load everything in, there will no doubt be things that have made their way into your piles that you probably don't need. So if you find that your suitcase is filling up a little faster than you expected, rather than immediately jumping to a larger size and having to pay to check a bag, try editing out anything you may not necessarily need. Think again in terms of outfits or pieces that you can wear again. And if you have any duplicates or options that you brought just in case, try filtering those out first. Having a little extra room in your bag for your souvenirs or not having to pay to check a bag is never a bad thing. If you've got any tried and true ADHD-friendly travel tips that you would like to share with the community, be sure to comment below. As a frequent traveler, I am always looking for ways to refine or streamline my planning and packing process. And be sure to hit the like, follow, or subscribe button so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes, like next week, where I will be sharing my spicy take that you don't actually need to learn anything more. What you need to do is take action on the courses, books, and videos that you have been consuming. Until then, keep making your ADHD journey part of your success story. If you're a business-owning mom with ADHD, you're going to need to grab my free customizable essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs by visiting bit.ly/checklists for ADHD mompreneurs or by following the link in the episode description. Do it now before you forget. Until next time.